Hello, friends. We are here to talk about the latest episode of The Real Housewives of New York, season 14. I don't know what episode we're on. Like, I really don't. I feel like it may be like 8. But at the end of the day, like, it was a really good episode. And there's a really good joke there, then, if it's 8 and then episode 8. We'll see. We start off the trip. The girls are going to Anguilla, I believe. I can't remember. But the girls, Sai and Uber are out shopping. And, Uber immediately knows because she had COVID when they had the wreath making event. And when they did something else. They did another event, I believe, where she couldn't come. And, Aaron's party. So she actually missed all the tea as it pertains to Aaron. So yeah, it's like she knows that she's going to get the tea from Sai about what happened.
I knew Sai is gonna serve the look and the tea.
And Sai, first starts off by talking about the party with Aaron and how she left and how Aaron was pissed at her. I like that Uba held her accountable and told her that she shouldn't have done that. Like, that was good. And it didn't have to be catty, right? Like, she was just like, you shouldn't have done that. And Sai's like, well, I apologize. I don't remember that. Maybe we didn't see it. But she said she apologized and we moved on. So that was interesting. But then more importantly, we get to Sai telling Uba the tea about Jenna's gifts and the fact that like all the gifts she was giving them, like they were marketing gifts. Like they were gifts with Jenna's name basically attached to it and how it's weird. And I already said last episode, like I can definitely understand that is kind of like weird because it's like you're believing that there is one purpose for this, so like meaning that you're just giving us gifts as friends, but it's really more of like a marketing strategy. So it's like there's an ulterior motive here, and it's not a negative thing. Like obviously she can promote her businesses, but there's an ulterior motive that you're not being upfront about. So it's weird, but I still love me some Jenna Lyons. So we move on. I did really enjoy watching them film and Jenna like walking down the street near Rockefeller Center with her brother and like showing him her work. It was just an interesting dynamic. I don't know if we've really filmed like that before in that capacity. So like seeing that during Christmas time, all the people outside in New York and like people just literally dead staring in the camera like what is going on. That was just enjoyable. Like I really enjoyed that just like raw television. I wish I had been there. While Jenna's with her brother, she's talking more about her disorder. Uh, this only fell flat for me because I feel like we've done this. She did give more context, but I think that it could have been done a little bit more briefly. I understand that they were focusing on it in this way because of what's going to happen later in the episode. But obviously, the real tea here is that she feels like she needs to tan in order to cover up her skin. I'm not saying we don't want to hear about it, but I just feel like I didn't get any new information past what we have already previously heard. So I think they should have edited it better to make it more concise and more to the point that she feels like she needs to tan to cover up these spots. That's all. I just feel like we spent a lot of time on it that we didn't necessarily need. But we get that information. I think that's interesting. I think it's valid. Like I don't see a big deal about it. Like if that's how she feels and that's an insecurity that she has and that's a coping mechanism that she's learned and that's what she's accustomed to. Like we all have those, so it made sense. So that didn't bother me at all, but obviously we'll see what happens with that later. We get to another part that I feel like was a little bit stale in the episode, and this is BRYNN with her brother, and they're talking about, her considering marriage and kids. Only stale for me, kind of similar to the Jenna thing. Like, I feel like we just talked about that last episode, and I thought it was a good moment then, but I don't feel like we need to immediately be back on it. Unless we're building something here, because now, I mean, not like the Jenna thing. With the Jenna thing, we knew that was circling back around. Well, we didn't know, but it circled back around at the end of the episode, and it had a lot to do with the major like conflict of this episode. Whereas the BRYNN thing, I don't know when that's gonna circle around, and I don't know that anybody can know because it has to do with marriage and kids. Like, I don't think any of us know when that's gonna happen for BRYNN. It doesn't look like it's on the horizon, so I understand them trying to develop it in the event that it is going to be a thing. And I said that last episode, like that could be exciting, like seeing her journey. But I just don't know why we need to spend so much more time on it in this episode is what I'm saying. But you know, whatever. This part I really enjoyed is when Jenna's at home. She just had surgery on her teeth. That was another thing, like a new thing that we learned, that she had to get a lot of work done on her teeth. Something that I feel like we could have learned more concisely, but whatever. And she's at home, she's recovering, and this contributes to the story later too as well, though, for timeline's sake. But Aaron comes over. Aaron brings her some soup, which I thought was super sweet. And I like how Jenna noted, like, I've seen friend Aaron, I've seen like motherly nurturing Aaron, and I'm like, that's funny because I was thinking that. I'm like, I really like this side of Aaron. Not that I dislike the other side of Aaron. I just think that Aaron can come off a little bit confrontational sometimes. But like, I think that this was a nice, sweet moment to see of her, so I really enjoyed that. Erin revealed some tea that she, thought about not going on the trip. She's not really giving a real reason, but obviously we can surmise why. And she opens up that I think she even verbatim said that her feelings were hurt about what happened at the wreath party. And I'm making a note of that because I think it's just such a very grown up thing. And I like when people can actually admit and say that hurt my feelings. So I believe that she did that. If she did, she gets brownie points for me. But even all in all, like, she has a conversation where she opens up with Jenna. And she's like, it really was like not a great situation for me. Like, it really made me feel some type of way. And I like that dialogue they were having when Jenna could say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't really know that it was hitting you like that, so I apologize. Like, I thought that that was a good dialogue, a good grown-up dialogue to have, because we know that Aaron's not going to have that level of maturity type of dialogue with anybody else in this group. No Sade, but I think we all know that. So it was fun to at least get this perspective of it. And, basically she's just saying she's still upset with BRYNN. And I like that Jenna was also, because we know that last episode, like, nobody had Aaron's back. And Aaron says in this episode, like, nobody had my back. And Jenna's like, well, like, I just feel like we know who BRYNN is. BRYNN is how she is. But at the end of the day, if it bothered you, then it bothered you. Like, nobody can take that away from you. And that's actual and factual. So I loved that. Like, the Jenna flag literally will not lower. Like, I don't even know what's gonna get me to lower it, but it's still up there for right now. They finally get to the part where, we're talking about the trip, and we get to the tea where, Jenna said she's gonna go 2 days early, and she's giving the detail to Aaron, right? Like, that she gave us earlier, where she's like, I want to go early and I want to tan. Like, I've got my skin disorder, and it's just like the way I'm feeling. I just want to be comfortable. She even says, like, the comparison thing, like, I don't look like you ladies. Like, she gives her everything that she needs. And then at the end of it, she's also like, we're having a homegirl talk. So, what made it even sweeter is that, I get to fly first class. And then Aaron's like, well, our flight doesn't even go first class. Like, so that's why all of us are flying coach. And she's like, exactly. Like, so, I was able to get on a different flight, go before, and it's also first class. Like, I get to get all of these things. And, Aaron's like kikiing with her, and she's like, well, can I fly with you? Like, oh my gosh, trying to play the, like, I'm not rocking with the other girl's car almost. But then she's in her confessional calling Jenna a diva. So I'm like, well, this isn't going to turn out well, because I had already noted, I'm like, well, that's not what you just said to her. And I didn't take it as a diva thing. Like, I don't even feel like I'm watching Jenna biasedly at all, like, because I don't owe her anything. I don't know her like that. I just think she's cool and I like her closet. But, like, watching that moment, I still didn't think that that was a big deal. So I'm just like, okay, because from the way I heard it, I heard her say, I want to go early because I want to cover up this insecurity. I have the plan already. I'm a grown woman. I do my big one. That's how I do things. And also, I'm happy that I get to fly first class. Like, I didn't want to fly coach. I just didn't see anything wrong with that. We move on. This part kind of felt like dropped on me. Like, I don't know what was happening. I know that there's like a mid-season trailer, I believe it is, where like Aaron and I believe it is either BRYNN or Sai are kikiing about Jessel's husband going to Vietnam, which is weird because there's no context to it, but there's a kiki to it, and there's a little discourse on the internet about it. And then, so now it's kind of popping up here, like the beginning of it. So I'm interested to see what's developing here. But at the end of the day, they're talking about the fact that Jessel's going on this trip with the ladies, and then he's like, well, I'm going to go to Vietnam for, I think he said 2 or 3 days. 3 days. And he's like, you know, I want to have time to myself. And I'm sure hearing, like me hearing that from my husband, and we got these 2 young twins at home. And then also, even if we only had a goldfish at home, like, what you mean you're going to Vietnam for 3 days? So, I mean, that's the conversation that they had, but it wasn't like a weird vibes, confrontational conversation. It was like a, where you going and why? What about me? And he's like, well, you're going to have to figure that out. She's, you know, so I didn't think that was a big deal, but I guess we'll see how it circles back around later. Finally, the ladies get to Anguilla. The house is gorgeous. They, you know, pick rooms. All the rooms are gorgeous. I guess I like the way that they picked the rooms, that there wasn't any big drama behind it. We did see that Jenna got the smaller room, so I guess, you know, that's like typical housewives tea, so we'll see what happens with that. But, you know, the ladies were really, I don't know, it feels like a let's poke at Jenna type of thing that's developing. I mean, it only got worse. So they're sitting and they're chatting, and Aaron's immediately just like, when is Jenna getting here? And everybody's like, I don't know, being shady immediately. And she's like, well, I just want to know this so that she doesn't hear me. And I'm like, girl, so I already knew there was some BS coming. And she immediately starts spilling the tea about this first class thing. She's just like, yeah, like Jenna didn't want to come because she didn't want to fly coach, and like kind of snickering about it, like, ooh, tea, like, oh, tea, like, let's make a thing about Jenna. And I just didn't like that, because I'm like, Jenna gave you all the information, girl. Like, she told you what her issue was, like why she wanted to go early. And yes, she said the first class thing, but like, you're literally spinning this to be something that it's not, and it's just so not a big deal. But all the ladies are just so offended and so flabbergasted and so taken aback, and they're already feeling some type of way about Jenna because of the gifts thing. So like, we already know with this group early on that when they have like adverse opinions about people, they kind of carry on in the weirdest of ways. They're dragged out, especially when Aaron's involved, and BRYNN we're starting to see. So they're making this big deal, and it's really just not. And I also feel like Aaron was acting so shocked and just like, oh my God, I can't believe Jenna would do that. Even though she was like saying to Jenna, like, can I fly with you? Like, she's not telling the ladies that. So that's interesting. There's a weird part now where we transition to like, it looked like it got a little bit darker outside. And they had already announced some point previously, we don't know the timeline, that Jenna was going to be coming to meet them at the house, because obviously she's already there. She got there 2 days before. And they're like, well, Jenna's coming to the house. But then we get a weird transition where like now it's a little bit darker. We don't get like the time lapse, and they're still waiting on Jenna, and whatever has occurred has made them more bitter and upset and irritated with the whole Jenna thing. So they're just flat out reading Jenna. Uba's like, F Jenna.
It's 6:15. Be clear. Where is Jenna?
I don't care.
Jenna can suck my
Like, it's just very weird. So I guess maybe they sat there and had a I Hate Jenna club for a good amount of time, and they're just doing this, which leads up to Jenna coming to the house. Also, while they're doing it, there was a point where BRYNN, like, because you know how like you get super upset and you're just like overly talking about how you're just not feeling somebody. Like, it feels like that's what BRYNN was doing, and it felt like she felt herself just going on and on and on about Jenna, and so she had to find ways to rationalize and justify it to herself, but she's doing it in her explanation to the group. She's just like, well, you know, I just feel like this, and I just feel like this, and she throws in the marketing thing with Jenna, and it's like, that wasn't even on topic. So that's just more proof that they were just still upset about that and like dragging that out, because she just randomly brought that up and nobody was even speaking about it. So that was that. Jenna gets there, and immediately they're on her tail. And Sai kicks it off, of course, because she's always the one. She's like, well, you know, why didn't you fly with us? Uba's like, yeah, like, you know, we were just talking about you. Like, they're all kind of firing at her at once. And it felt like Jenna was trying to, like, she's saying her hellos, and she's trying to, like, start speaking and explain herself. And, like, 17 people had asked her, did she tan? Like, there's just so many questions at once. And she's trying to get settled in. And
Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
Look at you, Fleur.
I did get tanner than I had expected. For someone who's so self-conscious about showing her skin,
Did you tan in your burqa?
I did. I see a lot of it right now.
You Did you tan?
I did, more than I expected to.
Oh. She looks.
Sai's just like, yeah, so, you know, we're annoyed with you because you said you didn't want to fly with us because you didn't want to fly coach. Jenna's immediately like, she's like, who said that? Like, I didn't say that. Who said that? And Erin's smirking again, and she's like, yeah, well, you did say that. So at that point, that really would have had me like, Erin, girl, like, for real, like, at that point, Jenna literally should have laid down the facts. Like, maybe she had just gotten there. She barely settled in. Like, her butt cheek had just touched the chair. So, obviously, she was not prepared. But I really would have laid into each and every one of them individually, starting with Erin. Like, girl, I told you specifically why I came out here. But very, like, calmly and, like, maturely, she tries to start explaining, like, well, I have this disorder, and, like, I wanted to come early, and, like, you know, my body isn't like you ladies, and they're just cutting her off and not allowing her to speak. And then, you know, BRYNN even, she just, for me, she was getting very just, like, rude. She's like, well, that's a cop-out. And it's like, people's insecurities and the way that they choose to cope with their insecurities are not cop-outs just because they don't appease you. At the end of the day, you're not even hearing the lady and fully what she has to say. Like, if you had the context that she has already given us and given Erin, hopefully you would fully understand what you're saying is a cop-out without any context, and that just doesn't make any sense. So, Jenna's basically saying the same thing. She's like, okay, like, I don't know how it's a cop-out, but, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, BRYNN's just doing way too much and trying to create a beef with Jenna. And I guess I hadn't put those pieces together where, like, it just seems like BRYNN has this continuous weird animosity towards Jenna because this is like the third time now that she's trying to call her out on something. So that's an interesting dynamic that I'm starting to see develop. I know I'm late, but I'm here now. It just really seems like they wanted Jenna to be upset by the way that they were going at it because it was obviously a very hostile conversation, and it just seemed like they were being funny and they were throwing jabs. Like, even when she was trying to explain, she's like, you know, you never see my body on red carpet looks, and BRYNN very immaturely is like, I don't look at your red carpet looks, and the whole table just got so tickled by that. Even Jenna laughed along. Like, she's trying to talk and y'all are talking over her and laughing and doing all this lame, silly stuff. And it just feels like they wanted her to be hyped up and she didn't. Like, she just did not let it affect her. She's just like, I mean, it is what it is. So I'm happy that she took that route and that she has that level of control because I don't know that I would. It's even weirder to me because then when they're leaving the scene, like, they're just like, okay, well, it is what it is. Like, let's move on because they're pokes at Jenna didn't get them anywhere, so now we just need to move on. And they're like, it's fine, like, let's just move on because they weren't getting the injury they wanted. So they're walking out and Erin, like, approaches Jenna. She's like, are you good? And Jenna's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, girl, like, whatever. So they even then move on, like, enough just wasn't enough still, like, and Jenna, because she hasn't seen her room yet, so now Jenna's going to her room, and she, you know, specifically says, like, oh, I like it, it's cute, it's quaint, or whatever she was saying, and they try to make it a thing, like, oh, she hates her room, look, she hates her room, like, she literally doesn't care, like, she couldn't have a care in the world, like, you know what I'm saying, so it was just so weird that they wanted to antagonize her, and it's like, why? But it was also even more funny that she was clocking it. Like, she knew. It's not even that she was just almost... I'm sure she, like, naturally reacts in that way as well. But she cognitively knew that they were trying to antagonize her and make this a big deal, and it wasn't a big deal. And I like that she was paying them dust. Like, I was living for that. We now get something I completely forgot about because it was skated over so that they can gang up on Jenna because they like to fight in numbers on this show. And I forgot that Erin and BRYNN even had a beef. So BRYNN tells one of the staff members, like, can you go drop, I forgot what it was, but, like, drop something off at Erin's room because I want to apologize to her. But the weird part for me was she was saying she didn't do anything wrong, but she still wanted to apologize to Erin. And those type of apologies you can keep when it comes to me. Like, don't even open your lips, honestly. Like, keep them closed. If that's your opinion, then you need to keep that opinion, and let's just keep it moving. And let's just keep at this failed attempt to beef with Jenna, because I don't want to hear that. So I'm interested to see, like, where the whole Erin and BRYNN thing goes. I think that it's also interesting to me because I feel like now Erin and Jenna are in kind of similar spots where it's like the bulk of the group is against them kind of off the principle that they just kind of do their own thing and they don't really care. I feel like they have that in common. So it's weird that Aaron would take this stance and like try to get in with the cool girls and the cool crowd and get against Jenna. But it's like the same thing that y'all are doing to Jenna, they're doing to you, Aaron. So Queen Jessel comes in and she's having a conversation with Jenna, and she's recognizing, like, you know, there was like a gang up on Jenna, and obviously like Jenna was trying to, I like that she was actually hearing what Jenna was saying, and Jenna was trying to, you know, talk about her insecurity and what the way she was coping with it and what her plan was. And Jessel points out, like, you know, it's like they used your insecurity against you, like they weaponized it against you. And I feel like that's something that they've done with Jessel in the past. Like I said, like when they talked about Jessel not having sex with her husband, like, I'm sure that's an uncomfortable thing for her, but they weaponize that against her, right? So I think that she's clocking it from experience and from just genuinely sitting and listening to Jenna at the table. And I like that Jenna, like, this gave me everything to just see how aware Jenna is. And she's just like, yeah, everybody's just being weird towards me at the end of the day. And she's like, specifically as it pertains to BRYNN, like, it felt like she really wanted to get into the tea of it and read BRYNN, but she didn't want to give it all that. So she was kind of stumbling over her words so that she could say the right thing. And she's just like, you know, I don't know, but BRYNN's just on some weird stuff with me. Like, I'm peeping that. And again, I like that self-awareness. And I like that, you know, she knows where she stands in the group is how I feel. And she knows how to manage it. And she knows how to move in this type of group. So I'm enjoying seeing it. It seems like Jenna is just definitely playing chess. I think all the ladies are, honestly, to some capacity. Like, I think that they all do what they do in a housewives environment well. But I think that Jenna is a little more caught up than they think that she is. Jessel kind of clocks it up. Like, she's like, yeah, I mean, it's just built up stuff at the end of the day. And again, that's the same thing they did to Jessel. Like, they were annoyed with her about one thing and they let it build up. And so every little thing that she was doing became an annoyance. So now the same thing is happening with Jenna. So a lot of the girls kind of get like similar treatments. At the end of the episode, we get, of course, BRYNN and Sai during their whole mean girl thing where they sit and go have a kiki and feel like everything they say is just so law and so fact and so real. And it's just so losery. Like, I just cannot stand it. Especially for these two ladies who I actually really like. But, like, when they come together and do this clownery, I just cannot stand it. But they're trying to get into Jenna. And again, while BRYNN is doing it, she's like rationalizing her own thoughts and giving like the right, am I right? Like, what am I saying, right? And she's just like, yeah, like, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people give a bunch of reasons for things, like a bunch of excuses. And it's just like, she wasn't giving a bunch of reasons and excuses. She was trying to tell you, you weren't hearing it though. Like, you can't even clearly articulate what the lady was trying to say. So like, what are you talking about? And at the end of the day, if you don't want somebody to give you a bunch of reasons, don't ask me anything. Like, when Jenna came in, don't question her about why she came 2 days early, and just don't ask her no questions at all if you don't want to hear her reasoning. Like, how can you pose a question to somebody and demand that they answer to you, and then when they give you answers or whatever, you have a problem with the amount of answers that you're giving? That makes no sense. Like, leave her alone. Stop talking to her. So at the end of the day, I like that Jenna was just like, look, I did what I had to do for me. So I don't really care how these ladies feel. It is what it is. Whatever.
It's fine. It's really good. I have other things going for me.
So I'm excited to see how this grows. The girls are not going to get up under Miss Jenna. And let's see who they're going to argue with next, because Jenna wasn't having it. See y'all next time.